Hi everyone, my name is Nina Melendez. I am the Virtual Content Specialist for Multilingual Learners and English Language Learners for Mathematics grade 9 to 12. Today we are going to be looking at Algebra 1 and we're just going to be looking at an overview of day 28 through 32, which focuses on vertex form of quadratic functions, and it's part of our Intro to Quadratic Functions unit. I'm going to focus on how to support our English language learners in the classroom. So here provided, and I will attach this to this video, I have links to the Desmos graphing calculator, which the students are going to need to use during this week, and I've provided links to Pear Deck, Padlet, and Google Forms. As we go through the lessons, I'm going to share where I think we should use these. But remember, Pear Deck is good for lesson delivery, whether the students are in person or remote or blended. Padlet is a really good way for the summarized portion of your lesson and for students to work collaboratively. And Google Forms is just a good way to do an assessment to make sure that the students have understood what was taught during the week. So the first day is day 28. We're looking first at day 28. Now, I just want to, as a reminder, if you ever need any clarity on what to do with your else, on slides 10 and 11, you will always find suggestions. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to slides 10 and 11 in this lesson. And you'll see it has at the top, engaging multilingual learners and scaffolds. And then on the second slide, it's going to be specifically the implementation for our multilingual learners and specifically what to do by slide. So according to the slide provided and to the lesson that day, what are things that you could do to support our ELLs? Okay, so this lesson is where the kids are going to be seeing the introduction to their vertex form. And one thing that I would do in this first lesson is that in the summarized portion of the lesson, so they have their explore, and they have their summarize, where it says, how can we make this explanation stronger? And students can share their work. I would create a Padlet. And I would have the students either screenshot their work and put it into the Padlet. That way they can comment on each other's work. So summarize are a good portion of this lesson for where students can insert their work and comment on each other's work. So moving on to the following lesson. So I created videos for 2 lessons of these 5 lessons. And I also created resources for the students. So I created videos and I created resources. So for this lesson, which would be day 29, we can see that in the suggestions for the slide, it is asking us to model for multilingual learners the use of Desmos. It says there's portions of these questions, depending on who your students are, that you might be able to chunk them or to split it up into 2. Okay, and for A and B, it says explicitly teach academic vocabulary, like what is a vertex form. I created some specific vocabulary slides that you can put into the lesson so that way you can use it and it can aid your students with the vocab. So for this lesson, the vocabulary organizer that was created would be this one. Now, this vocab organizer, you can use it in any lesson that you seem fit. It's going to be attached to this video, but if you have access to it and want to use it for another lesson, feel free to do so. This is just a quick way for students to start seeing what the vertex form is, how it works, and so that they're able to take notes and make observations and use keywords in their observations. Now, going through these lessons, I would attach this key vocab word into the beginning of every lesson, especially to support our Ls, so that when they need sentence starters or need to do their explanations, they have somewhere they can refer to get all those vocabulary words. On day 30th, for our launch, we have a compare and contrast. We have a compare and contrast for our launch. If you have not used Pear Deck, this would be a very good portion of the lesson where you can use Pear Deck. And Pear Deck has an add-on in Google Slides, and students are able to answer, and you're able to share out student answers. So they are able to make observations, and they're able to see what their classmates are answering in this compare and contrast. Now, for the following lesson, which would be day 31. In day 31, which just says graphing from the vertex form. I also have provided vocab words for this one. So in this one specifically, we can see that in the introduction launch of our lesson, the compare and contrast focuses on the standard form, the factored form, the vertex form. This has been a whole unit of intro to quadratic functions, so students might not be able to recall information or they might need a refresher. I created a slide going through the different forms and what are key things of those forms. In that way, they are able to refer to it and are able to answer what is the standard form, factor form, and what do they have different, what can they identify with these forms. Now, in this lesson also, it has an activity in which they have to do a matching. For this matching, this would be a good place where you could use a Google form, either create a Google form or create a Desmos activity where the students can match. If not, this also can be a portion of the lesson where you can create a Google slide where you create a copy for each student and the pieces can be movable and students can move the equation onto the correct slide. And I have an example of this in the coming slide. So I'm going to explain the activity. So this is a slide and I will provide this slide with the video. So students have to match each equation to one of the graphs by moving the function and matching it to the graph. So the students would be able to pick this up and move it over to the correct graph. If you assign this on Google Classroom as a copy for each student will be able to make their own copy and complete this work. Now, additionally, here I've provided vocabulary words and a vocabulary organizer for the key things that they're going to need for this lesson, which are all of her forms, the vertex form, factor form, and standard form, and an example of the same equation written all three ways, and things that we can identify for each. And then the final lesson, you can use any of those vocabulary word organizers into this lesson because it's changing the vertex form, so they are able to see the relationship with all of them. Remember, with our English language learners, we're trying to give them as much vocab support as possible so that they are able to express their understanding with all this new acquisition of language. I hope this has been helpful and that the resources provided with this video will be helpful. See you in the next one.